Human civilization and the entire planet could be devastated by the power of what scientists term a supervolcano. The best-known example, the supervolcano that's erupted on average every 600,000 years in Yellowstone Park in the USA. Some scientists fear it is overdue for another mega eruption. Others believe the world's next supervolcano disaster could take place in Europe. The theory's been around for 40 years, with this coastal bay in Italy identified as the most likely location for a future disaster.
This bay looks like a tranquil place, but under the water is Europe's largest supervolcano.
Good morning.
Petford takes to the water to check any possible changes in the level of volcanic activity under the sea.
It's amazing that I'm going to be swimming over a volcano.
This volcano is so dangerous, it needs regular monitoring to give the earliest possible warning of any future eruption. A dramatic series of changes in sea level first alerted geologists to the possibility that the bay could be sitting on top of a supervolcano. Four meters down, Petford soon spots the evidence that proved water levels had altered. It comes in an unexpected encounter. It's so large, it's the size of an entire town, a Roman one. Petford swims across the sunken ruins of roads, houses, temples, statues. All dating from 2,000 years ago.
It's like another world down there. There's Roman ruins, roads, mosaic floors. It's like sort of swimming through Atlantis.
Scientists have settled on the only logical explanation for the existence of the sunken town through which Petford has been swimming. The seafloor here must once have been on dry land. They know of only one natural force powerful enough to submerge an entire Roman town under the Mediterranean. Petford's next discovery, a vent in the seafloor. In midsummer, the water temperature here can rise to a comfortable 27 degrees Celsius. But here by the vent, he finds the water is suddenly far too hot for comfort.
There's thermal activity down there with hot water coming off the seabed. And I put my hand in and I could feel it burning.
The water being pumped out is almost at boiling point. For Petford, this backs up the scientific consensus that a volcano lies under the bay. Back in the nearby town of Pozzuoli, a community that sits high and dry above the waterline, there are other indications something odd is happening here. The most obvious sign, the hill that sits above the town. It wasn't here at all until 400 years ago, when it was pushed up by a volcano. It's known as Monte Nuovo, New Mountain. On a smaller scale, these ancient stone columns marking what was once the entrance to a thriving Roman marketplace. Each is more than 6 meters tall, yet they carry unmistakable evidence they were once submerged. The top halves of each pillar are riddled with the burrowing holes of marine clams, a species that survives only underwater. It's yet another sign the land here must have been regularly rising and falling, above and below the surface, throughout the last 2 millennia. And it's happening today. Since 1969, the underwater ruins in the bay have risen by at least 3 meters. Geologist Professor Giuseppe De Natale is responsible for planning the evacuation of the entire town should another volcano erupt.
The only way to defend oneself from volcanic eruptions is to evacuate the population.
The plan's been put into action before.
A number of signs seem to indicate that another eruption was going to take place, in 1984 in particular, and 40,000 people were evacuated from this city of Pozzuoli.
That time, it was a false alarm. The volcano quietened down, but they still maintain a complex system of monitoring equipment. In recent years, increasing quantities of sulfur gas have been detected. It's nervous-making. In the hills above the town, Italian geologist Dr. Renato Somma is uncovering a final piece in the volcanic jigsaw of Pozzuoli. He's been inspecting the invisible gases released from the hillside. He's shocked by what they have done to a countryside villa. Over just 2 years, the increasing output of toxic gases has totally transformed this luxury residence.
Sulfur crystals. It's basically like a nightmare. It's eating the house.
This indeed is a nightmare from Italy's living horror movie. The gas fumes create warm, acidic crystals that are creeping over every part of the house.
This area is really shocking. In fact, all those who come here describe this phenomenon as a monster.
Geologists have pieced together the up and down land movements, the hot seafloor vents, and the sulfur fumes of Pozzuoli to reach a frightening conclusion. The seashore bay and the entire town are sitting on top of a living, breathing supervolcano. The land is rising as water-saturated rocks are pressurized by the magma below.
And sinking. It's like a living, breathing animal beneath our feet that's constantly swelling and shrinking and swelling. The ground lifts up and sinks down again.
Petford's investigations follow in the footsteps of many other volcanologists who believe this bay and the land for kilometers around sits on top of a potential supervolcano.
The deadliest volcano is the one that you can't see, but in the future will definitely go off.
The consequences of a supervolcano eruption are almost too horrendous to contemplate. It may not blow all at once. There could well be a steadily increasing series of smaller eruptions, leading up to the final Big Bang. The first to die are the townsfolk of Pozzuoli and the 3 million inhabitants of Naples. And beyond them, every other person in Italy and much of southern Europe. A European supervolcano eruption brings devastation and terror not only across the continent, but also to the wider world beyond. The unimaginably large quantities of ash fire high into the atmosphere to blanket the globe, condemning the world to a nuclear winter as the Earth's surface is shielded from the sun's rays. The final death toll is incalculable. A global apocalypse.